What's happening, Matt?
Oh my gosh, I feel like a lot has happened.
So many things have happened.
I mean, what's like one thing that has happened?
I'm going to tell you one thing
All
that's
right, give me
happening
one
right
thing.
now.
Tell me.
I am a guy that has had myself a sober October.
Wow.
Yeah. How about you?
You know what's funny? I'm another guy who's also had a sober October.
It's excellent.
And here we are just drinking Beck's
Non-alcoholic
beers.
Yeah.
Beck's, if you want to be a sponsor, we'd love to have you.
We'd love to have you.
We are accepting offers from all
We're
non-alcoholic
having a couple of
beers.
beers, maintaining 100% of our mental faculties.
Just a couple of really interesting guys doing sober October, thinking that it's really cool when we talk to each other about it.
Totally. We're like, I'm sleeping good.
Yeah,
Me
right.
too.
Right. So true. So true. Another thing that I think is worth mentioning too is I think I have another rule that I'd like to add to the show.
Whoa. This is
I
quite
didn't check
frankly
with you
unexpected.
First. Yes, I did. You look
quite
floored. If you're watching, Chad is floored. Yeah, and if you're listening, Chad is floored. Yeah, right. He's you good? You ready to keep going? Yeah.
Go ahead.
I think I'm ready for another rule. Well, I think it's worth running through the rules real quick
Okay.
as a reminder.
All right. Well, this is for something that everybody needs to understand.
Tell them.
Is that we have rules,
but only a
okay?
couple so far.
It's a relatively small handful of rules,
Love that.
but they are pretty serious.
They're slightly pretty serious.
Correct.
Agreed.
So the first rule, this show, always about an hour.
About an hour.
It's guaranteed to be
about an hour.
About an hour.
About an hour. And that, again, we're not going to look at anything to get. That's just based off of feel. That's just body. We're just going to feel about an hour and then wrap it up.
But it's hard and fast.
Hard and fast about an hour.
That's right. I just want to make sure that's clear.
That's rule number one.
Yep.
Shall be about an hour.
Rule number two, we're allowed to swear.
Definitely allowed to swear.
We don't do it a lot.
We don't have to swear.
There's nobody going to make you.
But you're allowed to swear.
100%. We're adults.
And you know what? Yes, we are. Gosh darn it.
Dang it.
Yep.
Let's go. Number three. So number three, and this is where the rules they're sort of new.
Yeah. We're still feeling them out. It's like we're in the dating period.
We're in the dating
period.
Got
it. Okay,
rules.
got it.
But rule number three is no complicated math in our head.
If you want us to do decimal points, if we start getting into 3 digits, we're pulling out a phone calculator.
I can do addition. I can do subtraction. Even numbers only.
Yes, right. Multiples of 5 is my personal rule.
Fine.
Yeah, that's my corollary. Yeah.
I get it. It's just, and then the fourth one, which I upheld tonight like a champ.
Yes, you did.
There's a sushi delivery out there.
Yes, you did.
And there's no eating no eating dinner before the show.
Can I tell you something? I am so gosh darn proud of you,
Thank you.
for having sushi sitting in your kitchen and not eating it.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
I'm so gosh darn proud of you.
Yeah. Yeah. My wife was like, "Why are you not eating?" And I was like,
I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall for that conversation.
There's a rule.
Yes. That's kind of hard and fast.
It's pretty serious.
So rule 4 is no eating dinner prior to the show.
Correct.
Okay. So my proposed rule, and for those that could see me right now, you wouldn't see my lower half, but my proposed rule is that there's no dress code for the show. I was at home about to drive here, and I thought about putting on a button-down polo, and I thought to myself, there's no dress code for the show. That might be rule number 5. Thoughts?
Can we agree to some dress code for the show?
Okay, all right. Tell me more.
Like you're on the hairy edge.
Okay,
you got buttons.
Yes.
You got buttons.
Yep.
You're on the
Yep. Okay.
Like no Hardy t-shirts. Can we no Ed Hardy t-shirts? Can we agree on that?
Yes, I'm good with that. If that's the rule, yeah, I think we can easily agree to no Ed Hardy t-shirts as a rule. Good. That one's easy.
And I also feel like a shirt is also necessary.
That is a good point.
So maybe like we're like a gas station where it's no shoes, no shirt, no service.
Cool, like that.
Plus an Ed Hardy rule, and then maybe rules to come.
That, you know what? this is getting to be very complicated as a rule, though.
Do you think
maybe we nix this rule? Maybe I'm regretting this rule
Yeah.
immediately. Let's just be
Yeah.
decent human beings.
Yeah,
Maybe that's the
I think that's
cool.
fine.
All right,
Yeah.
fine. All right,
Right
so
on the hairy edge, though. I want
thank-
you. I'm watching you.
yeah, thank you. And I appreciate you saying that to me. It's the first time you've ever said that to
totally
me in front of all of our friends that are listening. If you've never met me, I guess that's one way to think about me.
That's one way to think about it. Yes, that's right.
It's probably true.
He's right there. All
Yes,
the time.
yes.
Yeah.
Well, no rule number 5 yet. Then fine. Stay tuned. We'll see what comes in as rule number 5.
So I think by way of a check-in, that covered it.
I think we're both doing pretty darn good.
So today, yeah,
We're having fun.
So today we are with our
We're
non-alcoholic
gassing
beer.
non-alcoholic
I am
beers.
so freaking hydrated right now. Right?
I bet you are.
It's crazy.
I bet
the
you
amount of fluid that's just flowing through my body.
I bet you are.
This is a 0.02, so any kind of buzz is just a pure placebo effect.
Yeah, love that. Love that. It really is great.
Isn't it great?
It is great.
So today we're going to talk about so our main topic today, we're going to get into kind of finding that fine line between running your construction business lean and burning your people out. And this is a topic that comes up pretty frequently with me, and I find it's a complicated answer, and it really does vary. So I look forward to diving into that.
Yeah.
And then we're going to argue for a bit, and we're gonna argue about whether you should have staff before work or work before staff.
Yep.
I know what angle I'm taking on that.
Cool. I'll let you go when we get there, and I'm interested to hear it.
You'll
I know what
just
angle I'm
agree with
taking.
me.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. All right.
We'll see.
All right.
I am more agreeable than you, but we'll see.
That's true enough. That's true enough. All right. Well, good. So, Matt, I want to start with you because, as you know, I have consulted for construction companies for 16 years, going on 17 here, I think, in like a week or something.
Wow.
And but I've never worked for a construction company. I mean, that's not wholly true. I worked in the field when I was in high school and college as a laborer and just a really, really bad carpenter.
Yeah.
And worse mason and worse roofer.
Wow.
Yeah, I did all those things really poorly, but I can hump a pack of shingles up a ladder pretty good. Yeah, I can do that all right.
Which holds a lot of weight.
One on each
in the
shoulder,
roofing
man.
world.
Who needs hands?
Yeah,
Yeah,
right. That's
it's
a big deal,
the
actually.
worst.
Yeah.
So
You're kind of like a party trick. Yeah, that's on the job site. When
yeah,
you can
watch
do that.
what I can open a bottle with anything.
Yeah,
too,
exactly. Yes.
Different conversation.
Yes.
But because I don't have that experience in working in a construction company, just like I've only worked with the owners and the executives and managers and stuff like that over the years. I'm turning to you for this first. As on the employee end, that's what I'm trying. I always tell our clients this. I want you to run with as few people as you can possibly get away with. Okay? But get away with is the operative phrase.
Right.
Because you're not getting away with it if your people are burned out and looking for other jobs.
Yep.
You think you're getting away with it until they quit.
Yep.
But you're not getting away with it.
Yep.
So I really want to hear from an employee end first, like just that personal experience. Have you ever felt like you were running too lean? Have you ever had that feeling like, man, dude, we need support?
So, and I think it's a great question, and I appreciate you posing it to me. And I really feel like the important place to start is imagine that you are an employee, and there are definitely employees that are listening to this that don't have to imagine this. They're living this, what I'm about to say, every day. But there are also a lot of people who are listening to this that haven't been an employee in a long time, or at least haven't been non-management.
Yeah, I'll say
in a long time.
The doers.
The doers.
Yeah, the people who are actually doing the work that you're selling and managing.
And so the picture that I want to paint for everybody, just to maybe this is, an empathy exercise of where this person might be coming from. The person that we're talking about uh, probably doesn't know the financial success of the business.
Mm-hmm.
They may not know how to measure their own performance as an individual, whether they are doing well or poorly. They also may be in a position where the goals of the company are not necessarily clear, and they don't have a total understanding of what they're working towards. And beyond that, they probably aren't dialed in on financial acumen to a level to understand what lean means, other than we don't have a lot of people.
Right. So in this world where you're lacking, I think, a lot of useful information, how are you experiencing it when the company is over the line on running lean versus burnout?
Yeah, that's well said. And the simple answer is you're over the line. I mean, you're confused. You're probably questioning, and I'm speaking from talking to so many people that have been in the industry too, and,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that
It's
are,
not
that are
just
going
your
through
personal
this. Yeah,
experience, but yeah.
but you're questioning. You're in a place where you're confused, and directionless may be a word, and
Mm,
through that directionlessness, you're questioning, am I okay? Why am I working so hard? Is it worth it for me to be working this hard? And do the people in those management positions even care? you know and when you are in that place, to be honest with you, whether you're running lean or not, even if you are uh, have plenty of people, but roles and responsibilities aren't clear,
yeah.
and your personal measurements for success aren't clear, and man, even your own ability to regulate your thoughts and emotions, just from a very basic, just like being able to define success for yourself, right? Forget about what your bosses are looking at. This is a very common place for people to be, and even when you're not lean, you're going to be wondering, what is this all for? Do the people really care? And so yeah, so I think that's the employee perspective that not necessarily all employees are in, but as a standard, I think that it's not crazy to say that there are many construction companies that have employees just like that all over the place.
Yep. Yep. Okay. All right. So the root causes, it sounds to me like, I mean, how much does hours worked factor into it?
Yeah, and so it's a great question, and you and I have talked about this plenty of times before, but that's one of the interesting things about burnout is I actually don't know that anything that I just said related to hours worked or
Right.
overwork
That's
or
why I was digging,
yeah,
right? Because it
yeah.
seems like, well, isn't that the thing, right? Isn't that you're quote unquote overworked?
And I think that's what a lot of people think, and I think for some people it's true. There's different kinds of
I know for
burnout.
me,
There's
I
different
have
kinds.
hit that line. Like
Yeah,
I know
there's
we've talked about that. I
yeah,
know my line. My line's
yeah,
about 55 hours.
yeah,
When I cross 55 hours, and it happens more often than I'd like to admit, but
yeah,
when I cross 55 hours, I start getting grumpy.
yeah,
And not just like hours 56 and 57, but like all next week.
yeah,
You know
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah.
I'm like, just meh.
Yeah,
This is
you
hard.
start seeing stuff stupid. It's like not how you actually see stuff. It's
So
this different.
there is an hours worked corollary, but like there's something obviously deeper there that you're really alluding to, that maybe from a root cause standpoint is, if hours worked and not these things, no burnout. If hours worked and these things, burnout guaranteed.
Right.
And those things, just playing back what I think I heard, like it's knowledge, it's information,
Yes.
insight.
Yes.
What would you want to know simply put, what would you want to know as an employee if you were being asked to go above and beyond? What would you want to know about going above and beyond?
Yeah, great. So I think the first thing I'd want to know is how am I going to be rewarded for this, right? And that's the employee mindset. When you
Sure.
start getting manager, executive,
What's
you
in it
hope
for
that
me?
that changes and starts to get to be more flexible. But what is in it for me, and what is my tangible reward that I can understand, that I can pull away from this
Is
direction?
keeping your job an okay reward?
If keeping my job is if I feel like the job that I'm doing is the job that I was hired to do and that all aligns, then I think so. I imagine and I know for sure that there are plenty of times that the job that you actually end up doing is not necessarily the job that you were hired to do, because again, roles and responsibilities are unclear, and you're kind of being a superintendent sometimes, and you're kind of estimating
Right.
sometimes, and you're also kind of have that job where you're supposed to go into the shop and mark off materials, and like
Most
it's not
construction companies are small,
right.
and most small companies have people wearing multiple hats. And then you layer that into the construction industry where project demands are very real
Yep.
and timelines are not messing around.
Yep.
And there are going to be moments where things do ebb and flow, and that like that there's just going to be moments where you're piled up on work and your company can't just like now throw 4 more PMs at it from the Arizona office.
Right. Right.
You know what I mean? And
Well,
and so that's a part of the reality. But what I hear you say is like, then make that clear.
exactly. I think one of the interesting things is if you said to a project manager coming into a new company, you said, "Here's your job description." None of this is a call to not be a great teammate, though.
Mm.
And when situations arise, it may take you going and running to the job site. It may take you going and running down to the shop. And we want you to know that we see that and we appreciate it. And we also expect it to some degree because we want everybody to be in an environment where they can rely on each other. And that's part of how we get there. And that's a super cool and exciting place to be. And so, when you ask about, what really needs to be in place, I think a clear alignment of your expectation with the role, how you're being compensated for that
Yep.
role in return, and then really, to me, it starts going into purpose is increasingly important amongst the next generations of what is this work
What's it all
going
for? That's what I just
towards.
wrote down. What's this all for? Yeah,
What's it all
that's what's going
for?
on. Yeah.
Yep. And that purpose can be very fulfillment based. It can be, I always like thinking about, like, guys, we're not just building an elementary school, like we're actually giving like an awesome new facility for kids to come every single day of their lives.
Yeah. How great is
Like,
that?
how great is that? And that is one of the amazing things about the construction industry. Guys, we get to drive down the road just like any of us that had parents in it, or that have ridden down the road with a superintendent in 20 years and point to the buildings that
It's
we
awesome.
built. And it's just such an amazing thing. Like, that's what it's about. And I remember, even growing up, doing that with my dad and some of the, managers and mentors and everything I had when I was working for the construction company. And it really does make a difference.
Mission matters. Purpose matters. Why are we doing this?
And the corollary to that really is the future, and not just that purpose matters, and also what greater contribution to the future is this making, and how does it fit within the business's future, what we're doing, and
And it
where
goes
I
back to something we talk about all the time, which is you got to have a vision. You got to communicate your vision.
right.
You better be able to sell to your people where your company's going. We think about last month's episode where we talked about like, is growth a necessary? It's well, look, man, being able to tell a compelling story to your people about where you're going is a necessary thing
Right.
if you want to be able to get people to go above and beyond.
Right.
Here's what I've also found, Matt. That's awesome. Thank you for
Yeah, and
that.
I
That
want to
was
hear
really
what
great.
I feel like I took up a
Well,
lot of
no, I think
mic
that
time
was
there.
fantastic. But what I found is that people are willing to do it for stints. People
Mm,
are willing to go harder than normal for stints. But number one, you can't pretend you got to acknowledge that it's more than normal.
mhm.
And number two, you have to try to set some expectations on end date, so that people, like, if people just feel like this is what normal looks like and normal is untenable, they will eventually start to look for another job.
Yeah.
That absolutely does happen. But if I say, hey, here's the deal. It's November. We are slammed. We've got more work going right now than we've ever had. For the next 3 months, that's going to be the case. So through January, we are going to be flying, and I need everybody all in 100%, and it's going to be tough.
Yeah.
I wish we could throw more staff at it, but in February and March, we've got nothing. So we're working real hard right now to get work. But if we added staff right now, we'd have to lay people off in February and March. And I don't feel like that's the right thing to do. It's not who we are.
Yep.
Right. And then finish all that speech with, as a leader, well, you better get in the front. You better lead from the front when you're doing that.
Sure.
You're going to be like, all right, cool. I'm going to Bermuda.
Right.
You guys have a good time.
Right.
And that doesn't mean that the owner, and this, we could get into that, when I say leader, I say that very specifically. There's a lot of people who are like absentee owners. Look, man, some owners don't have anything to do with the business. There's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
The owner doesn't have to be the one leading from the front. It just has to be whoever's in leadership roles. And if the owner happens to be the president, then they better be leading from the front and not hanging out in Bermuda for the next 3 months while everybody's grinding.
Yeah.
And being like, FaceTime from the beach, like, how's everything?
Yeah.
Right. So I think people need it. That kind of goes hand in hand with information and buy-in, and because a piece of the information that people need, if you're going to be working them harder than normal, is that this is abnormal and that there is an end. And I think that buys you some grace, where people are like, all right, I can do short term.
Yeah.
But if they feel like they're trapped in a loop, it's, with no end in sight, that's soul sucking. It's
so true.
It's brutal.
So true. Yeah. And it never hit me before, but one of the things that allows people to do too is go home to their husband or wife and say, here come 2 months of tough, we're going to have to get through this together too.
That's right.
And my gosh, the amount of positive impact that has on a relationship, to know that there's, hey, we got a batten down, but there will be an end.
That's right. Yeah. And okay. So this is an interesting little thought that I've had a few different times, but I've never really aired out loud. So we'll see what it sounds like once it's out of my mouth. But I have observed that, and this is in my generation as well as yours, though I don't think we're in I think we may even be in the same generation, but I'm the oldest millennial and you're not the youngest, but you're you're kind of closer to the younger millennial.
Yeah.
I definitely identify more as an Xer because of my big brothers, and I'm like right on that Xer line too, and I don't have any, my brothers are so much older than me, and my parents are older. My parents are like older boomers, all that kind of stuff, right? So I'm not, I don't feel millennially, just for whatever that's worth.
Yeah.
But even in the people that I identify with more as my generation, they are so much more careful with their home relationships than than people used to be, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Right. Like there's a lot of I got to make sure my spouse is okay, type of stuff going on. And to me, and I'll be honest, I'll be brutally honest. My wife is going to have to hear this. It's going to be, but my wife and I kind of have a deal where it's like, I work and you got the kids, and I will help with the kids when I'm not working, and I'll see you soon. That is kind of, it's very old school, along those lines. And so that's very personal experience. But overall, I don't feel like it's a bad thing. There's a reason divorce rates were super freaking high for, boomers, right? Like they were all like, you know what, let's get divorced. And there's a reason that their kids are like, let's not get divorced. Let's have different kinds of relationships. Or
they're like, let's not get married at all.
Right. Yeah. That's a totally new thing, right? Everybody's like, let's just not get married. We'll just be together and not get married.
Yeah.
But I think overall there is a trend toward much more awareness of your. Oh my gosh, we have our first child guest. Here you go, buddy. I'm giving you the chips because you are holding me hostage. That's
because you're adorable.
hysterical.
Bye, Mason.
Oh my gosh. Mason's he's a radio star now.
Yes.
All right, sorry. So but there's a trend toward that, and I wonder what is a reasonable expectation for a construction company of like the degree of catering to your spouse that needs to happen. Do you know what I mean? Like, how do we do that in a thoughtful way, but also in a non-disruptive way? How does, or should the company just kind of pretty much stay out of it?
It's a great question. I'm sitting here thinking because um sitting here thinking about it, and there is absolutely a responsibility for the individual to take care of their own mental health. I think
Right.
that is one extremely important point that many people in my generation actually miss, is that we believe that it is the company's responsibility to make me mentally, okay and healthy. And over again, the experience I've had, and I think it's just a truism since Buddha and so many philosophers and all that. Even if everything in the external world is perfect, if your boss is perfect to you, if your job is perfect, if you have the best clients, and you are not okay as an individual, you will have strife, you will have problems, you will have trouble, you may burn out. That
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you. And yet I can't help but feel like companies having awareness of that. Like, I can't believe I'm taking this side of that argument, Matt. But like, you know, I leave construction companies off to the side for a minute.
Sure.
I care an awful lot about our team's
Sure.
mental health, and I'm pretty proactive when it comes to checking in and making sure that, like, at least I try to be pretty proactive in making sure that people are okay and that their
Yep.
balance is right and that they're not feeling overloaded or like they have a bad um you know um deal with the company.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, do you need a minute? Do you need some time? You like that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. And in your opinion, is that like appropriate or just extra nice? Or is it, how should I put it? Should that actually be the target, or is that just me being like, extra focused on it?
Yeah, no, and so I didn't quite get to finish that thought, which is totally okay, but
Sorry.
like that's okay. That's okay. The thought definitely would go down that same path, even though the individual has a responsibility. I think it's important to start there because my generation needs to know that, and the generation coming in needs to know that. You need to schedule no phone time for yourself. You need to schedule brain breaks for yourself. You need to
Yeah.
take walks. You need to take it. Like all of that is definitely a prerequisite. And if you are a business and have and want to retain people, even if they're perfect internally, but you're creating this toxic, troubling environment for them, and they're trying to create a life that feels positive and beneficial to them and their personal relationships and everything, they will come to resent you.
Yeah.
That's a reality, and so I think, and Chad, gosh darn it, I couldn't be more genuine about this, but you've cultivated such a great environment for that here. And one of the things that I'll share with everybody that of an approach that you've taken that I think works really well with this is really two things. One is that you're extremely clear and direct about these things, about when we're going to go through a rough time, or when extra time may be needed, or the dedication it takes to become an executive, or whatever, and advance in the organization. That is extremely clear. And the other thing that you've made extremely clear is, hey, everything is on the table to ever talk about. And one of our core values is personal ownership, which it means like owning if you're not okay. And we've had this conversation before. That doesn't mean that you can't check in as a great boss and say, how are you? Are you okay? Your body language in that meeting made me wonder if
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
okay. but it does mean that since everything's on the table, like, come on, like, also talk to me, like, please, like come to me when something like that is going on. And the environment that's created for me, and I think I could speak for a lot of people on our team, is that I feel empowered that if I do have something like that on my mind, I can bring it forward. And that empowerment and that ability to bring it to you is such a cognitive ease in and of itself.
Mm.
So yeah, so I absolutely think that the more that you can create that environment, and by the way, I'll just end with this thought, and the really important thing that then happens for anybody that wants to create that environment too is when you make that offer that you can come to me and you can talk to me and you can bring it up and it's all on the table and it's all okay, to then respond non-judgmentally and in
Right.
in alignment with what you told that person is so important. If you're like, oh my god, I can't handle all of this, as soon as somebody comes and asks you that, they're gonna be like, well, you said I could talk to you about
Yeah,
anything. So
never mind.
right, exactly. So
Yeah.
so always keep that in mind. The more, like, the words thank you are so beautiful. Thank you so much for coming to me and talking about this. Even if the following words are, I have no idea how to handle it,
Right.
but thank you so much for sharing this with me. I'm
Yep.
taken off balance. So uh I do have I think this is great. I also do have a question, because in here, it's really not just about burnout. It's the fine line between running lean
Yeah.
and burning out. And so maybe a question that's been on my mind is, despite all of this stuff and psychologically, when do you know if you're too lean? Like, let's take like burnout out of the equation.
Yeah.
When is and I think we got to go to the management level here. When does a manager, do you know that you're running too lean?
All right. So I'm going to give you two answers to the question. One is I'm going to give you the perfect answer. And it is just objectively the perfect answer. I'm very good at answering.
Yeah, very good answers.
The best
Very good
answers.
the best
Got the best
answers.
answers. But everybody loves my answers. But the first answer is the perfect world answer, which is rollout time tracking.
Wow.
Roll out time tracking in your organization. Have everybody actually thoroughly track all of their hours that they are putting against all of their tasks. Your field employees do it. Why do your office employees not? Oh, they have so much going on. Stop it. They're working on this and then for 20 minutes and then they shift to that for 20 minutes. Well, what about the emails? Okay, have a batch emails thing that you can handle, or apply. When they're doing an email, are they handling like 30 emails and then like one real long one for such and such project, and log the time on such and such project, and then log time in a batch email? You can do this. Logging time is worth doing.
It really is.
People who don't log time I'm sorry, it's a cop out. I'm too busy to log time is bullshit.
Yeah.
I exercised my right to swear.
Yes, thank you for acknowledging that. That's the rule. You don't have to acknowledge it as a rule, but I do appreciate it. Yes. I certainly appreciate it.
Okay. So that really is, and I say it's the perfect world answer because the truth is, I've found there is an incredible amount of pushback from most contractors on that idea that their project managers and their superintendents and their estimators and all related operation staff are going to log time.
Yep.
But if you do log time, you start to amass a treasure trove of information, so that I know task A should take 2 hours, task B should take 3, task C should take 4. So therefore, if I'm assigning somebody a project that has A, B, and C, that's 8 hours worth of work, and they should be able to handle that. 7 hours. They should be able to handle that inside the day that I've assigned them that, right? But what we do in this industry is we just say, Matt, hey, you're on XYZ project. That's yours. That's your job. You're on XYZ project. How much time should I spend on things? It's your job. Your job is XYZ project. Okay. Right. And so there's a rule. It's called Parkinson's law. And Parkinson's law is that tasks will expand to the time you have allotted for them.
Yep.
And that tasks that have no time allotted for them will tend to expand indefinitely. And that's exactly what happens with construction staff. This is all a long way of getting to the right answer, I promise. But
I'm with you.
But what we have to do if we really want to nail this is we've got to understand, when we assign somebody a project, we got to understand not only the labor hours if you're a self-performed contractor, but the management hours that actually have to go into that contract. And the management hours should be broken down at the task level. So what are the things? How long is RFIs? What's our RFI budget on this? What's our submittal budget, time budget, right? Or submittal budget on this? What is, our OAC meeting budget on this? What is our, safety meeting budget on this? All that stuff. And all of these things get budgeted, and we can track our time against all of these individual tasks. And guys, we do it. In our business, we have everything broken down to the task level, and we track everything against every task. Every employee, me included, does all of that work. And it gives us the ability to know that, like, when we assign somebody something and they say, this is going to take me, 5 days, that you're like, nah, it's going to take you 16 hours. Here's the exact breakdown. And if it takes you more than that, then you need to learn something.
Yep.
There's something you're missing.
Yep.
That's the right answer. Here's the more real world answer.
Well,
yeah, go ahead.
I want to ask you real quick. With that information, why is that the right answer? Why is time tracking the solution to knowing whether or not you're lean?
Right. Well, it's very simple. When my tasks are greater than my inventory. So if the hours necessary to complete all my tasks are greater than the hours I have in my inventory of resources, well, then you're out.
Yeah.
And so this is a perfect way to hire. I can see, like, okay, hey, we just sold a deal. This is going to cover what we're talking about later. But I can see I just sold a deal, and that deal should have 68 management hours associated with it. My current inventory of management hours is negative 12 already,
right,
which means I'm running super lean, and I'm asking some people to go above and beyond. This is all based on 40-hour work weeks.
Yep. Cool. Thank you.
Right. And so I'm running very close to burnout. I've got a few people who are probably, or maybe one person who's overblown right now. And so I got to hire somebody right now. I can see it.
Yeah.
Objectively, I can see that that's a need, not project manager knocking on your door and saying, hey man, we need more people.
We need more. Oh my God.
Well, dude, of course you need more people.
Right.
We have always needed more people. And this is where the balance comes in. And when we come in and we and we work with clients, one of the things that we absolutely are doing is we're looking at the P&L, we're looking at the head count, we're taking a look at the workload, and comparing it to the head count. And it's many times I've come in and be like, you either need to sell more work or you need to cut some overhead. And I'm sorry, you just have too many people. How did you end up with so many people? Well, Billy said he needed more people, so we hired more people. Like, okay, right, that's what happens.
Totally. And just to wrap one bow on something we talked about earlier, this is a problem for employees when they don't understand a P&L, which is not a bad thing. It takes time to learn that stuff. They're going to think that they need more support. And until they can truly understand and look at why the dollars and cents would not allow for that, you will believe that we are just running lean and taking profits. And this is where trust comes in, and understanding. And there's so much that goes along with transparency and showing people.
That we can make bajillions of dollars, you have to have a horrible life.
Right. Because I've seen the owner's boat, and
that's right.
I would rather have a project manager next to me.
That's right. I'd rather have a project manager than that boat, right? And there can be a really good point to that.
Yes.
One of the reasons that they sometimes don't show the P&L is because that would make them very uncomfortable. Because they do feel. And my answer to owners is, if you feel guilty about showing people P&M, you're fucking doing it wrong.
Yeah.
Right. You should feel guilty.
Yeah.
And maybe change some of your behaviors.
Yeah.
And and then you would not feel guilty.
Yeah.
So and I think that's hard for some people to hear. That could be. And look, I'm not saying you have to change that overnight, but give some serious thought to that. If you're listening to this and you're like, there's no way I'm showing my people my books.
Reflect on why.
Are you embarrassed that they're going to see how little you make? I think if you solicit them in the cause and say, hey, we should be making more money, that they'll get behind you.
Yep.
Are you embarrassed at how much you make? Well, then consider being more generous.
Yeah.
Right. Think about how you could be more generous with that money.
Yep.
But what I'll tell you is that 9 times out of 10, no, actually 10 times out of 10 in my personal experience, every time I've ever helped a company go open book, go transparent with their people, people have been inspired. And nobody has been like, oh my God, we're making way too much money.
Nobody has
ever thought we're making so much more than I thought.
Wow.
They always think the company's making more money than the company's actually making.
Yeah. Wow.
Construction is not software, man.
Yeah. Right. Right.
We're not running 75% margins.
Yep.
I could tell you a different stories, different day.
Yeah.
I mean, we could get into that. So time tracking empirically gives me the information I need to evaluate objectively.
Yep. It's great.
Do I need more staff? and I want to live as close to the line as I can possibly live.
Yep.
And that's again, you're living it, dude. That's exactly what we do.
Yep.
We're looking at inventory and we're like, and we can see it in 3 months. We're going to need to make a hire. So that means in 1 month, we need to have somebody start so that we have 2 months to train and onboard. And, and then they can be fully up and operational. And then we'll be able to hand them this so that our inventory can grow. I mean, and we've had open conversations where you're like, hey man, I'm feeling a little overworked. And I'm like, it's coming. I promise we got one coming.
Yeah. Yeah. And the last 2 times it happened, we had somebody coming like literally a week or 2 later.
That's not on accident.
It's not. No.
Yeah.
No. Some secret sauce working there. Okay, so you talked about the perfect world, and now I'm going to exercise my right to cuss. What about the fucked up world we actually live in? What's your advice for?
We're getting. Are you sure these are not alcoholic?
Right.
These are. They have less than 5%. They're not 0.0.
Less than 0.5%.
Less than 0.5. Okay, got it. All right. It's close to 0.
Yeah, got it. No, Ossifer, I haven't been drinking.
No. So, the real world answer to this scenario, the thing that without getting into a massive time tracking project overnight, which many of you I hope are inspired to do, but still probably just can't to get that up and running overnight, is you've got to open your ears, you've got to open your eyes, and you've got to actually as leaders get into the mix, get on the front line and evaluate it. I can't tell you how many times, like I've had this conversation where they're like, they keep telling me that we need to add more staff. And I'm like, how are you going to find out if they do? And they're like, I don't know. I'm like, maybe do their job for a couple of days.
Mm.
Maybe just jump onto the line with them and see how it goes. Right. And they're like, I don't want to do that. Like, but if you do that, you'll actually know because you'll be living it. Right. And when they come out the other side of that, there's it's very common that they have a much higher level of respect for their team, that trust builds, that they come out and they're like, Jesus Christ, we need 9.
Yeah.
Like we don't need 1. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
What we're asking people to do out there. That it does not have to be the owner of the company, but your leaders. You have to have leaders in your company that are able and willing to lead from the front.
Yep.
And so the real world answer is that you can go do tomorrow is you can go walk a mile in their shoes and you can go experience it and say, you know what, let's see what you guys are really dealing with here. And let me understand and experience the workload and how this whole thing is sort of laying out. And if I spend a week doing that, or I spend 3 days doing that, I'm going to have a pretty good feel. And what I'm also going to do, and this is really the great news, is that the answer is often not, we need to hire a whole bunch of people. The answer is often, holy shit, we are crazy inefficient. We are doing this wrong, this wrong, this wrong, this wrong, this wrong. This is why we're leaking all of our hours. And my people aren't lazy and they're not working hard and they are going above and beyond, but they're going above and beyond because all of our systems are dumb.
Yeah. Yep.
Or we're not following what we said we were supposed to do in the first place, or whatever else. So you will find the solutions out there, and throwing bodies at the problem is, I really sincerely hope, not where you have to land.
Yep.
I would say it's probably 80% of the time it's not necessary.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And then once you've optimized your business and your people are, and then they come to you and they say like, hey, we need people, they're probably right.
Right.
And then I'll give you this one last thing is that you will, over time, as you pay really close attention to what's going on, you can figure out there are certain metrics for like, on revenue or, on project count or on GP or something along those. You can figure out we need X managers per Y revenue or Y projects or Y GP.
Yep.
You know what I'm
Yep.
saying?
Yep. Yeah. So like just maybe to make sure that's clear, like a specialty trade contract or like an $8 to $12 million project management book of business, if you want to call
That's
it
right.
that's under management is a pretty common target.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
That's good.
And you'll and then once you kind of have those benchmarks, if you have people who can't manage those benchmarks, then it's kind of like the time tracking. It's like they're telling you that they need some training or coaching, or maybe they're the wrong person.
Yep. Yep. I think that's
Um,
great. Can I
yeah,
add one
please.
more thing
Yeah, sure.
that as another potential just thing that you can do as an executive or owner that is pretty simple, and it's to take your P&L and basically break it into revenue, direct costs, and GP. Pretty straightforward. You're going to get your standard GP that comes out on the other side of
Yeah,
that, standard gross profit that comes out on the other side of that. If you have a target net profit that you're trying to achieve, then the only thing standing between your gross profit number and your net profit number is overhead and salaries.
that's right.
And for overhead, you likely have a certain amount that you've spent on marketing and certain things that go into your overhead bucket over the last couple of years that you could get a pretty good idea of. And then all that's left is salaries. And there's that great book we've both read before, Big Profits, Simple Numbers, whatever it's called, but it calls it the salary cap, and I think that's
Yeah,
really fun, right? The salary cap becomes the variable to solve for. If we want to do 19% GP and we want to do 10% net profit, well, then I know I've got 9% left over to spend on overhead and salary cap. Well, after I take out my overhead and standard costs over the last 3 years that I've put in there, that's how much money you got left for salaries. Whatever is left, if that's your target that's what you got left. And depending on what that tells you, you may need to win more work.
yeah. I was gonna say that I love the math based equation on figuring out if you can afford more staff. But I would just so yes to all of that
Yeah.
as a thought exercise. Um, don't because you have the salary cap, don't spend it.
Sure. Well, then your net profit gets to go up.
That's right.
That's the and
That's
then
exactly
and then you're in bonus territory.
that's yeah, and that's what I've found with business past a certain point is that you can you can get a lot more than you think.
Yeah.
If you have an awesome culture and you have well trained people and everybody that's hungry and they're working hard, like all that kind of stuff, I'd much rather share the wealth with a smaller group of people.
Yep.
Than I would hire more people and not have room for bonuses and things like that.
Right. Totally.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Same page.
Sorry. Cool.
No, it's good.
Fun.
Yeah.
I'll reiterate and then we move on. Have as few people as you can possibly get away with, but you're not getting away with it if they're burned out.
Yep. Love it. I think you're right.
Cool. So we've actually kind of touched around some of the edges of hire first or bring in work first as we talked around this. So I'll go first on this front. To me, it's get work first, but understand what your hiring needs look like, so that by the time that work hits, you've hired to staff that work. You're not hiring after you're behind. So go get the work, lock it up, and then based on timing, bring in people and get them up to speed so that they can handle that work. That's my take. I think financially, it is super high risk to just hire people, have them waiting, and then get work to fill their plate.
Right.
That's my take.
No, I love it. And yeah, I mean, it's so hard to argue with that. And I was trying to consider it from a trade contractor business versus a service type contracting business, and in either case, you don't want a bunch of people sitting on the bench that you got to make decisions about whether to let them go or not. I do think that there's the situation that you may do this is where you want to expand into a new market sector that you've never been in before, but need a subject matter expert that can go get it and do it. So there are certain situations that
I agree.
It's the things that are investments.
Yeah, I can think hey, we want to go after projects with X type of technical complexity. Honestly, we can't get that work unless we have somebody here who knows it. So we need to hire the person before we can get the work.
and we know we're going to run at 8% net this year instead of 11 because we're going to bring on that person and 2 people to have under them to protege. And
but whatever.
But it is what it is because we're expecting this
it's going to
market
unlock
to be
$50 million in 2 years.
80% of our revenue by 2029.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Same page. That was a really shitty argument.
But I didn't really agree with you. I still came up with something different. I mean, I kind of agreed, I guess.
You totally agreed.
Did I agree? Shit, I did agree.
You agreed, and then made it better.
Send us an email. Did Matt agree or not? Well, we read all emails. Thank you so much.
I will say that the logic behind hire before you get work, I do respect, is that the last thing you can afford is to get work and screw it up and damage your reputation and struggle to get more work in the future because you took on work before you could actually handle it. I totally respect that. I think what I would really, so for those of you who hold that belief, I hold that belief too. What I want you to do is get the work and then hire the people in time for them to be ready to do the work.
Right.
That's what I want you to do.
Right.
And, the better you are at projections, the easier this gets. Now, I could hear a little argument. I could hear it just like, "Hey, Chad, that's dumb." Right? I can hear a little argument. It wasn't from you,
right?
For the
record,
right?
right. The audience is going to tell us.
Little mouse, a little set. But I could hear a little argument that, hey, Chad, what about those situations where we win the work and we got to start right away, like a site contractor? Because like site guys, that's a fast turn world. They're like, they're not doing, not, I shouldn't say universally, but they tend not to be doing like a year's worth of pre-con, like a metal panel person might be doing, or like a landscaper might be doing, or something like that, right?
Yeah.
It's relatively short turn, so like I need to be able to do the work in that situation. To which I would answer, then based on your pipeline,
yes,
hire based on your pipeline,
yes,
even before you've won the work. And that way you're like, hey, in our pipeline, our projections are telling us, and we have to trust our projections. Our projections are telling us that we are going to land approximately $3 million of work that's going to start in the next 2 months.
Yep.
And we are at capacity. We're going to hire to expand capacity to absorb the work that our projections are telling us that we're going to win. And if those projections are wrong, fix your tool. Fix your projection tool, fix your methodology for doing projections, because you can get real projections.
Yep.
And if you're struggling with that, email Matt.
I was going to say, any of this stuff.
I mean, true.
admin@wellbuiltconsulting.com.
Yeah, that's right.
Email us, admin@wellbuiltconsulting.com.
Right. Nicole will channel that.
Yeah, she will.
Yeah.
She will.
What are you reading?
Oh man, I'm so excited. It's read now. It's not in progress, but I'm
Sweet.
still excited to talk about it. But I actually met with on this. I didn't expect to share this, but heck, feels right now. I met with my therapist on Monday night. I go to a therapist usually twice a month. It's been an amazing experience. So for anybody else that is maybe dealing with that stuff in the first half of the show, that
I've
we
had
talked
a couple
about,
of different flavors of therapists.
Yeah. And you're very emotionally, sound, and I mean that genuinely. It's like,
yeah.
Goddamn right I am. All right, I regret saying that. Everybody's gonna know. But anyway, man, he just asked me a great question. I went on vacation, and he just said, like, "What'd you learn while you're on vacation?" And it lit me up because I was so excited to answer it. And one of the things that I learned was I read this book, Don't Believe Everything You Think, by Joseph Wen. And it's a book we're actually reading for Well Built Book Club, which shout out to Brandon Sodenkamp for suggesting it. Yeah,
let's go, Brandon.
Yeah, let's go, Brandon.
Wait, unintended.
Sorry, that was unintended. Dang it.
Actually, go, Brandon Sodenkamp. We love Brandon Sodenkamp.
Yes.
Keep going.
And man, the thesis to the book, if I were to break it down, is that there's a difference between thought and thinking, and thought is a natural occurrence of the brain. You are going to have thoughts, things are going to come to your mind, and sometimes those thoughts are painful, and you will feel that pain in the form of emotion and heartbreak and frustration and anger and fear and whatever. Thinking itself is a totally different thing. thinking is a form of suffering if we let it be. It's taking those thoughts that I'm not good enough, or I'm not able to do that job, or I don't deserve what I have, and putting energy into the thinking as to why that thought is so true.
Mm,
And for me, that is just such a powerful idea that we're going to have thoughts and we're going to feel pain, but we very much have control over whether or not we put ourselves and our hearts and our souls behind that pain and believe in it and turn it into suffering. And that has been really meaningful to me. And meanwhile, I think of the egoic thinking brain has this really strong arm with a strong ass bicep that's like super strong because it's been working its whole life. Our brains have been thinking our whole lives. We're
totally.
so used to this. We're programmed for it. And I think of my thought brain that's present and doesn't do all that nasty stuff as like this little puny arm. And the two of them are in an arm wrestling match.
Yeah.
And you know what? The egoic thinking brain is going to win over and over again because it's got that big bicep. But what your job is to keep working on that puny arm, that present arm, that thought arm, keep pushing back against it, keeps building up that strength. And over time, it just keeps getting better. So that book has been really meaningful to me, and I'm super excited about it, as you can probably
That's
tell.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
can tell.
Yeah.
I'm about halfway through it, and I found it to be very um, useful to that same imagery. Not so much the arms, right? But like that's kind of cool. That's helpful. But the thought that you get to choose where you invest your brain power,
Yes.
and you don't get to choose what thoughts pop up. Whoops, there's a thought.
Yep.
But I then do have a choice whether I want to be like, let's obsess about that.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
And yeah, it doesn't make sense to do that on things that make you sad, right?
Right.
So just stop it.
Yeah.
It's my favorite. That's my
Yes.
favorite.
That's your best
You've
advice.
seen. Have you ever seen that old Mad TV? Have
Oh,
I
I don't
played
think
that
I
for you?
have. I don't think
Oh
I
my
have.
God, we got to watch Stop It.
All right, cool.
Man, look up Mad TV. Stop It. Anybody in the audience, and you'll basically get my personal theory on therapy. It's just hey, you just stop it.
Yeah, got it.
You're like, but I can't stop it. No, just stop.
Yes.
Yeah, it's the best. It's a great
Cool.
episode. I'm reading The Power Broker by Bob Caro. It is epic. It
Uh-oh.
is
This is interesting.
it is an epic. It is a massive. It's a book that has intimidated me for a long
I feel
time.
like I've heard you say that before. There's multiple books on that
I
list.
do attack books.
Yes. Yes.
That like scared me
Yes.
initially.
The obstacle's the way.
So I have it on the Kindle and Audible because it's so long. There's no way I will make through. Like it'll take me a year.
Yeah.
To make it through on the freaking Kindle alone. So I've got it on both. For context, the Audible is 74 hours long.
My God. Oh my God.
It is an in-depth. It's an in-depth.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yes, it is. It's really basically all about one guy who was basically shaped modern New York City. His name is Bob Moses. Was Bob Moses, and he was a kingmaker, a power broker, kingmaker, string puller, puppet master extraordinaire. Love him, many do. Hate him, many do. For very very real reasons, he did some awesome and terrible things, and it is. I love that kind of stuff. Like I love the stuff where you listen to the story and you derive your own lessons.
Sure.
Which rather than things that are so
Sure.
explicit about the lesson to learn.
Sure.
And he's just such a master storyteller. The author is amazing.
Wow.
Yeah. So strong recommendation.
Wow.
And you have to be a little crazy.
Yeah.
To dive into it. It is the only thing I'm allowing myself to read or listen to for now.
For the next 9 months.
I'm gonna get that sucker taken care of in the next 2 months. I bet you. By the time we have our next show, I'll be like, I'm reading a Power Broker.
Yeah, right.
It's good still, but I'm tired.
Yeah.
I can't wait for another narrator voice.
I can't wait.
Yeah. Oh man, this is fun.
This was a lot of fun.
I don't know where we landed, but I feel like it was about an hour.
It was for sure about an hour.
It's for sure about an hour. Uh, Anything that you want to share? Oh, you know what? We should briefly talk about our leadership boot camp that's happening in December. I think second, third, and fourth, or
Yes.
third, fourth, and fifth. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or the first Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday in December, which I think
Yep.
is 2, 3, and 4.
Yep. It is.
We have our leadership boot camp coming up. First 2 days are universally applicable construction leader must know. I don't care what role you're
Hard to
in.
imagine a role it doesn't
If you're
fit.
a current leader or you're going to be a leader, you're gonna love those first 2 days. And then the third day is an optional opt in. Though most people who are there this time, we're getting a ton of registrants already. Are doing the third day, and the third day is executive readiness. And
Yeah, I think we've had 80% opt into the third day already. But
yes,
keep
that's
going.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's and which is, again, it may not be for you, but executive readiness is the piece that is going to get into P&L and how to understand and translate the numbers on your project to the numbers in the business, how all that adds up, the difference between markup and margin, the difference,
Yep.
like all that kind of stuff.
How to be great at strategic planning and communicate that to your team.
100%. Yeah. Some of the next level kind of business acumen that we dive into in executive readiness. It's a lot of fun. So day 1 and 2, universal construction leadership, musts, communication, problem solving, issue resolution, blah, 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 like that
Yep.
kind of stuff. You can't go wrong.
Yep.
And then day 3 for people who need to be getting ready for an executive seat, or who are in executive seat and are like, you know what, damn it, I never had any training.
Yep.
Which
Yep.
we've had several business owners,
Yes.
go
Oh, yeah.
through it. They'd come to me and be like, "That was great. Wish I had that 30 years ago." Like
Yeah.
that, geez.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
type of thing. So
Near BWI, if you are from the DC, Maryland, Virginia area, very close to BWI, and if you're not from the DC, Maryland, Virginia area, very close to BWI, which is a major airport right outside of Baltimore.
yeah, flights from everywhere. So
Yep.
do check it out. We're capping attendance at 50 people. We're here at the end of October, and we're about halfway home. So
Yep.
Please do reach out to us and get involved in that. Anything else you have going on you want to mention?
No, I'm sometimes feel this way, but I just feel a tremendous amount of gratitude for you and this and the company and the audience listening and the stuff that we're doing, and it just feels really good. So thank you for all of this stuff.
Thanks,
and
man.
Yeah,
You're all
let's
right.
keep doing it. Yeah,
You're all right.
let's keep doing it.
I appreciate it, brother.
Yeah, always.
Thank you for tuning in as always. Look forward to talking to you next month. And please, if you ever have anything you'd like us to talk about, reach out. You can check us out at themorninghuddleconstructionshow.com. Thanks. Talk soon.